Hey, what's up? John Sonmez here from simpleprogrammer.com. So I did a video a while back about not taking feedback. You can check out that video. And I was thinking about this a little bit more. I've mentioned this in a couple of videos, but I kind of wanted to expand upon this a little bit more. So I've been reading some biographies, and I've actually been, I go into different phases, but I've been caught up in this biography thing. And I've seen a common theme, a common thread here, I think, in the most successful people. And I want to double down on what I said about not taking feedback. And, you know, and this is contrary to popular wisdom, right? I think most people tell you that you should take feedback, that you should listen to what people say, and you should modify your approach based on that. But that I'm so far against that for a number of reasons, and I want to talk a little bit more about that because I want to see you become successful by being you, right? And I think that's really important. I think that's one of the points that I didn't really talk about much when I was making those other videos, but I've been thinking about that a lot lately, just as I've been reading these biographies and I've been seeing different people and just thinking about my own history and what I felt has made me successful to me, what you know, be beyond monetary, beyond metrics and numbers, and that's really such a critical thing, you know. And you hear those stories, right? You hear the things about Steve Jobs and how he didn't listen to people. He didn't build what people wanted. He built what he wanted, or he built what he wanted for them, what he thought was best, right? And you hear about, you know, Henry Ford doing the same thing, you know, that famous quote about, what is it? If I would have asked them what they wanted, they would have said they wanted a faster horse. And I think that's a part of it. But that's not the whole thing. It's not like we're all going to be, you know, visionaries and change the world by having this idea that's better, you know. And I think a lot of times that people dismiss that, and they say, well, yeah, but if you're Steve Jobs or Henry Ford. But what I've kind of realized is that it's important, no matter who you are, to really to have that approach. And it's not just about creating some company, right? It's not just about creating some product. I think it's easy to look at it from that perspective, but it's what you do and what you create, right? I mean, you know, you take this YouTube channel, for example, right? There's a lot of people that I think say, and they've got a pretty good opinion, right? I can't really argue with it, that, man, you're hurting yourself by talking about personal development and life advice, and even the book. You know, I wrote a book, Soft Skills. I'm not even going to pull it out of the bookshelf today. If you haven't read it already, you can check it out. You can check it out here. But even the book, a lot of people have said, hey, John, you know, this stuff, a lot of your best stuff that you'd create on YouTube and that you've written in that book, that applies to everyone. It doesn't just apply to software developers. So by limiting yourself, by calling yourself simple programmer, by doing this, you're hurting yourself. And that's pretty valid feedback. But you know what? I don't give a shit, because that's what I want to do. I want to do it under Simple Programmer. I'm choosing the kind of videos that I want to make, right? Because people have also made the same arguments and said, well, you know, maybe what you should be doing is doing more tutorials and stuff like that, so you can attract more programmers. And maybe I'll do those things, but I've got to make the videos that I want to make, right? And some of the choices that I've made, sometimes some people have really been against them. I've said, oh, you're going the wrong direction. But I think it's really important, you know, to choose to do the thing that you want to do, that you decide is right, as opposed to letting other people tell you about, as opposed to taking the feedback. Again, you know, reading the biographies, I just read Elon Musk's biography, and I'm going through Arnold Schwarzenegger's Total Recall. You can check out the book here. And it's just amazing how these guys and how many successful people that everyone told that they were against what they were doing, but they just decided that this is what they wanted and this is what they were going to do no matter what, and that was their mission, and somehow they got there, right? And so I think it's such a important concept, right? It's so easy to look at metrics. It's so easy to say, well, if I did this, I would have more growth, or I'd have more success, or I'd make more money. And while some of those things may be true, like the phenomenal success, like the explosion success, the huge success, it comes from doing something different that is uniquely you, what you decide to do, and it usually is against the popular wisdom of the time, right? It is usually the advice that someone would say you should not do. It's usually when you do that, but you do it long enough that you have this breakthrough. And if you look at a lot of famous people, a lot of really successful people, you'll see that. You'll see that what they did went against the popular wisdom. It was contrary to it, that they just chose something and they kept on doing it. And even though maybe they weren't even getting results, they kept on pushing and they kept on going and they kept on going. And then all of a sudden they had this miraculous breakthrough. And so I think that's a really important thing to consider, is that, you're not going to be able to just predict this. You're not going to, if you're taking feedback, if you're constantly improving based on what other people are telling you, then you're going to go in the direction they want you to go. They're going to shape the direction that you're going to go, and it's always going to. It may end up being good. It might be close to great, but it's probably not going to be great. It's probably not, because most people don't go there. And if they had the wisdom to do it, they would have taken themselves there. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't take any kind of feedback. And what I mean is that it doesn't mean that you don't change your approach based on what you're seeing, right? But that feedback, I strongly believe, has to come from you internally. You have to decide. Now, some of the things that other people say and some of the results that you're seeing are, of course, going to influence that. But ultimately, you've got to have a gut check constantly with what you're doing, what you're producing, what you're creating. Okay, and what path you're on, and you got to decide, how am I feeling about that? Is it taking me in the direction of more of creating the gift that I want to give to the world, of more of who I am and what I want to become? Or is it taking me further away from that? And how do I need to adjust course? But that's a totally internal thing. No one can decide that for you. You can't look at a stat. You can't look at a comment that someone leaves on a blog post or on something that you've done and decide that that's the thing that's going to change it. That you can't make the decision based on that. But more so than that, right, is another concept, another part of this that I think that is very critical, which is that suppose that you listen to, quote, feedback, and suppose that it makes you extremely successful, but at what cost? Or what path do you end up being on to get there? Is it a success that you define success, right? I mean, maybe you're making a lot of money. Maybe you're doing really well by other people's standards. But if you're doing something that you didn't want to do, right? If you're on a path that you didn't want to be on, if you're not creating what you want to create, that success is, you're only able to get the reward of it, but not the actual reward of the process of the actual creation. The creation, the thing that you're doing, becomes almost slavery and drudgery and becomes boring and becomes the work that you have to do in order to get the reward. And I think you'll find that the reward is sort of hollow, it's sort of empty. But if you have a smaller amount of success at doing something that you love to do, that is you, that you pour yourself into, that is totally what you've decided that you want to do, that's not influenced by the external, by other people and what they think and their feedback, then that success is so much more powerful, right? When you beat the odds, as this channel has grown, I've felt that, right? And it's been great because I'm not selling out. I'm not building content that is going to be, quote, popular, right? I'm building the content that I want to. It doesn't mean that I don't ever create something for SEO. It doesn't mean that I don't ever create things that I think will bring people in, but it's my choice. It's not a choice that I felt like I've got to do that. I still make the videos that I want to do. I still touch on the sensitive topics and say some of the things that I know are going to make people click unsubscribe. But I get to enjoy the entire success of that, and I think that's that's so critical. I just been thinking about this a lot, and I don't know where things are going to go. I don't know where things are going to go with what I'm producing, but I know that it's always going. I'm always going to reject anything that isn't what I want. even if it's good advice, it doesn't matter. Because I could take the good advice and I could achieve, like I said, those paper results, and you could do the same thing. But what is it going to be like when you get there? How's it going to be? As Third Eye Blind would put it, how's it going to be when you get there and it wasn't what you intended to do? It isn't you anymore. It isn't what you wanted to create. So I just caution you, about that. I've done some videos recently, and I've talked about making choices and career choices, and I've talked about this idea that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what is the smarter choice, and you should, of course, try to be wise in choices that you make. But ultimately, you're going to have to choose the path that is your path, and you're going to have to take 100% responsibility for it. And that's something only you can do. You have to trust your own instinct. You have to trust your gut. You have to trust, in order to do that, you have to be honest with yourself, okay? You're going to have to look in the mirror, point to the video on the looking in the mirror and being honest with yourself. You're going to have to do that. But that's what it's going to take. All right, if you like this video, I got a request for you. Click that subscribe button below and keep doing you. Talk to you next time. Take care.